Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Halper from the Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions, speaking to you from Jerusalem. It's really an honor to be with you. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but while you're listening to this, I'll be in Istanbul, where I'm a member of the Gaza Tribunal, and will be delivering a final verdict to a jury of conscience on Israel's genocide in Gaza. Nonetheless, it's important for me to be here with you at this important ZEM Zero Evictions Movement Conference. And I want to thank my friend and comrade Cesare Ottolini and his team and all of you for allowing me to speak. I want to speak today to all of you about a form of cultural genocide that Israel is committing, even though we have a ceasefire in the meantime, has been committing for a couple of years in Gaza. But even before that, we'll talk about this. It's a part of an ongoing genocide. And I want to focus on some of the elements of cultural genocide, of which domicide and herbicide, the systematic and massive demolishing of homes and entire communities and cities, combines with ecocide, scholasticide, and historicide, the erasing of a people's culture and presence in a country, as all components of cultural genocide, such as Israel is today doing in Gaza. And before we begin, I have to sort of present a little bit of, we only have 15 minutes, so there's not much time, just a certain perspective, a context to this, and that is settler colonialism. Zionism, the last 130 years, has been a settler colonial project that Israel is trying these days to complete, to finish, to normalize. And as you can see from this map, these maps are probably well known to most of you, it's a process of Judaizing Palestine, of turning an Arab country into a Jewish country. And in order to do that, of course, you have to eliminate the native population, the Palestinian population. In other words, the flip side of Judaization is de-Arabization. And of course, taking the land and displacing the native population and replacing it with your own population cannot be done without democide, without herbicide, without physically replacing the indigenous population with your own. And so this is really the context of Gaza. And genocide is built into settler colonialism and Zionism, both physical genocide, but what we're talking about today is cultural genocide. Arnon Sofer, that I'm quoting here, is a Haifa University professor of geography, a very prominent geographer, who said in 2002, because you see, with settler colonialism, you cannot displace and replace a native population without generating resistance, of course. People are not going to voluntarily accept their displacement, their erasure as a people. There will be always a resistance. And therefore, the colonists, like Israelis today, can never relax. They can never let their guard down because there will always be resistance. And so he said back in 2002, this is 20 some years ago, but articulating in his own way this built-in genocidal element of Zionism, he says when 2.5 million people lived in a closed-off Gaza, it's going to be a human catastrophe. Those people will be even bigger animals. And remember our then defense minister, Gallant, who's in the meantime been charged by the International Criminal Court with genocide, talking about Palestinians and Hamas as human animals. This is very common in colonial language. Those people will be even bigger animals than they are today, with the aid of an insane fundamentalist Islam. The pressure at the border will be awful. It's going to be a terrible war. So if we want to remain alive, We will have to kill and kill and kill all day, every day. And here's the logic of settler colonialism. If we don't kill, we will cease to exist. The only thing that concerns me, says Sofer, not the killing part, the only thing that concerns me is how to ensure that the boys and men who are going to have to do the killing will be able to return home to their families and be normal human beings. Normal is the key word here because the way settler colonialism wins is through normalization. This is the danger. The Abraham Accords, and in a sense, this is what Gaza is trying to do: make an entire people disappear, to eliminate the native, and that's the only way we, the settlers, can become normal. Now, looking into Gaza itself, let's see what's going on in Gaza. We have to begin with the human cost. Officially, there are more than 67,000 Palestinians that have been killed. 83% of them, according to Israeli military statistics themselves, are civilians. 70% of them are women and children. But really, according to a lot of other estimates, including the medical community, it's estimated between 100,000 and maybe even closer to 200,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza. If we include deaths from burial under rubble, injuries that people have suffered, disease, health issues. What do people do if they have cancer? If they have diabetes and they can't get medicine? Malnutrition, exposure to the elements, and other causes. In addition, more than 160,000 Palestinians have been injured, and 1,900,000, almost 2 million of the 2.3 million Gazans that live in Gaza have been displaced. In other words, 90% of the population have been displaced from their homes and neighborhoods and lands. And 2.2 million, almost all Gazans, face extreme hunger. Now, moving to our issue of domicide and urbicide, about 300,000 buildings have been destroyed. 92% of Gaza's housing has been destroyed, plus the entire infrastructure: roads, sewage systems, electricity, water, and so on. And you can see on the red parts of this map on the left, these are the urban areas that have been almost completely destroyed. But we can't just think about the numbers that are really astounding. We have to also think of, what does this mean, a community? Let's not forget, it's not only houses and structures and buildings, but we're talking about the markets, your neighborhood, your friends' houses, the coffee shops, your religious and community places, even the parks, the whole cultural and human environment in which you live. So when we're talking about domicide, as a form of cultural genocide, we're talking about the most intimate and family spaces, community spaces that you're losing. Of course, you're also losing a sense of personal security. Certainly, children lose a sense of personal security. There's a loss of connection to your community and to your land. And that's part of the idea of displacement and settler colonialism, is to actually detach the population from its land as if they don't belong. And that's why Trump and Netanyahu are talking about moving, expelling the Gazan population to other countries like southern Sudan, for example, as if they have no real relationship to the land, and even if they do, to destroy it through domicide and herbicide. So there's a loss of connection to your land, to your community. There's a loss of agency. A sense of helplessness and despair. And there's certainly a loss of political agency when you come to domicide as well. So it's an extremely disempowering experience to go through, not to mention an inhuman experience to go through. And these are just some of the pictures of the domicide in Gaza. Now, of course, Israel justifies domicide and herbicide by the fact that it's attacking Hamas. Hamas has tunnels underneath the buildings, but you cannot explain in any military sense this level of destruction in terms of military targets. Hamas couldn't possibly have tunnels under all these areas. This is a matter of cultural genocide. This is a matter of trying to detach people from their land, displace people completely, to eliminate the native. And let's not forget that this isn't only happening in Gaza, because the pacification that's taking place, the displacement taking place, actually is more important for Israel in the West Bank than it is in Gaza. And therefore, Israel talks about Gazifying the West Bank. Here's a picture of the Jenin refugee camp in the northern West Bank, that's also been attacked with conventional military weaponry. In other words, 40,000 people have been displaced from the refugee camps in the Gaza Strip at all. Ecocide, another aspect of domicide and of destroying the environment in which people live. 95% of agricultural cropland has been made unusable. Cropland like this, as you can see, the same cropland, agricultural land, just a few months after the Israeli attack. Ecocide also means that there are 60 million tons of debris in Gaza. And don't forget, what is the debris? Concrete, all kinds of metals, what goes into buildings, that's extremely toxic types of materials that gets into the soil, it gets into the groundwater. Concrete is very acidic, as we know. Add to that the pollution from the military munitions. Tons of unexploded bombs, exploded bombs with all the toxic materials that they leave behind. And 70% of the 600 water and sanitation facilities have been destroyed, which of course generates disease, and probably means all this together, ecocide, means that Gaza, despite Trump's plans that we'll see in a second, a lot of Gaza is liable to be uninhabitable for the foreseeable future, if not longer than that even. And then there's the cultural genocide. The other aspects of the cultural genocide, destroying the culture, the heritage of the people. Part of it is scholasticide, of course. Half the Gazan population is under the age of 18. 92% of the schools are unusable. 6 universities have been destroyed, and more than 450 academics have been killed. Here's the Islamic University before and after. The Islamic University was destroyed without military orders. There was no military target here. Hamas was not in the buildings. There are no underground tunnels. This was done completely at the initiative of a colonel of an Israeli military unit who was later reprimanded by the Israeli military command because this was simply unnecessary. There was no immediate military reason for this, but it shows the intent without the military of destroying all forms of cultural expression and identity of Palestinians. And here in Al-Aqsa University, one of the other 6 that have been destroyed, an Israeli soldier is taking a picture mocking as if he's reading a book in the library while the soldiers are actually burning that university library to the ground. In terms of a cultural genocide, we have to talk also about the loss of heritage, historicide. More than 100 heritage sites have been destroyed, UN heritage sites in Gaza. 830 mosques have been destroyed, ancient churches as well, some of them going back before they were churches to even to Philistine religious institutions of 2,000 years ago or more. 19 cemeteries have been destroyed. 12 museums have been looted and destroyed as well. The looting of libraries and museums is something that Israel has done since 1948 in all of Palestine. There are tens of thousands of books and manuscripts and diaries, all kinds of cultural materials of Palestinians that sit lying today at the Hebrew University, at the Army's archives, scattered all through the country. The cultural looting of the Palestinians. Libraries have been destroyed, cultural centers, and 34 archaeological sites have been destroyed, including the ancient port of Athodon, which is one of the earliest ports in the entire history of the Mediterranean, of the world, actually. Mosques destroyed. This is the Great Omari Mosque that was a repository of ancient Islamic manuscripts that have all been taken or destroyed, cultural centers, and so on. Let me just say one more word. I'm running out of time, and that is that this is intentional. And just one thing I want to mention is this is a D9 Caterpillar bulldozer. These are the bulldozers used to destroy homes and entire cities in Palestine. And a regular bulldozer, if it hits a building, the building will collapse on the driver. So here you can see the special shovel that's been designed specifically for demolishing Palestinian homes. This is a domicide herbicide machine. So the fact that engineers, Caterpillar engineers, Israeli army engineers sat and carefully calculated the specifications of a shovel that will destroy Palestinian homes shows the intentionality of this crime. Why is this happening to Gaza? There's a lot of reasons we can't get into, but again, we go back to settler colonialism, the need to displace the population, replace it with your own population, and the need to Judaize. It's a term we don't use very often, but it's very important to erase completely not only the physical, but the cultural presence of Palestinians in Palestine. So it is no longer a country called Palestine. It does become Israel, and then that becomes normalized. And that's the only way you can really explain what you see here, which is nothing but erasure. The entire erasure of a population, of a culture, of a heritage, of a living community, of people, right? Without the military, the genuine military reasons that can explain this scale of destruction. And then, of course, there'll be settlement. Maybe that's what the Israeli settlers would like. They even have maps of the settlements they're going to build in Gaza. And then there's the financial aspect. Trump's Riviera. The Egyptians have a plan as well. Don't forget, this is an $80 billion project to reconstruct Gaza. And according to the plans, 50 to 70 billion will be private investment. So add that dimension to what we've been talking about. And finally, this isn't only in Gaza. The settler colonial movement is all through the country, and the democide is all through historic Palestine. In Nakba 1948, 52,000 Palestinian homes and community structures were demolished. Between 500 and 600 entire Palestinian villages, towns, and urban centers were systematically demolished in the Nakba and its aftermath. Moving to 1967, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza, more than 60,000 Palestinian homes and community structures have been demolished since 1967. Inside Israel, there are hundreds of Palestinian homes that continue to be demolished until today, especially targeted our entire Bedouin communities in the Negev. And of course, add to that the 300,000 Palestinian homes and structures demolished in Gaza since October 2023, the grand total meaning that almost 500,000 Palestinian homes have been and community structures have been demolished by Israel since 1967. So this is the picture. I've tried to sort of give the background and the description of what democide really means. My final word is we should open a campaign, and I'm suggesting this to the conference, to include cultural genocide, including domicide and herbicide, into the Geneva Conventions. The Convention on Genocide, because the Genocide Convention today only includes physical genocide. Everything we've talked about, which is the cultural, human destruction of people and communities, is not included in the Genocide Convention. And I think this is an agenda item that we should be pursuing. Thank you for inviting me, and good luck with your conference, and I hope we can remain in contact. Goodbye.